So everyone, welcome back to another video. Tino McGaz here. So basically, Celtic have won 5 titles consecutively in a very dramatic game against Heart of Midlothian, and I could not be happier, and my life is now in dreamland, I think is the word I would use, that we actually managed to do it. Against all the odds, Celtic have came from a position of utter despair, looking at about 3rd or 5th in the table if things continued, to Premiership champions. It's absolutely unbelievable. And hats off to Martin O'Neill and his backroom staff for pulling this off, because it is a genuinely incredible against all the odds victory of a league title, and the sweetest league title of my entire life. So first things first, let's get into it, shall we, in terms of the game in general. So obviously Hearts go 1-0 up. They get their goal because Celtic's defence decide to just go missing and leave the league's deadliest goal scorer just alone at the back post. And he just runs in and just hammers it into the net with his head. And then, of course, we get the penalty, and, it's a penalty, and it's put away by Arnie Engels, and then it's 1-1 at half-time, changing the mood music of the kind of team talk from Martin O'Neill, obviously, that he's going to give to his players at half-time. And then we come out for the second half, and it's all change. Nacho was on up top, and it completely changed the game for Celtic, because immediately afterwards Hearts decided they were going to bring on someone to try and counter the fact that Celtic had made that halftime change, and so they actually brought on someone else, like someone to try and counter that situation, right? And obviously it didn't work, because Celtic just overran Hearts for the entirety of the second half. And before I even really get into details about everything, right, I'm just giving overviews at the moment. A lot of talk has been about Hearts' fantastic season and how well they've done, and all of that. But ultimately, they're just a hoofball, agricultural, back to AFC Wimbledon back in the old days kind of team. They just shell and hoof the ball on top of the goalkeeper for 90 minutes, in this case 98 minutes. And they expect that they'll feed off the scraps. And if that doesn't work, they've got corners, long throws and free kicks. Now, for me, I don't know. There's many ways to play football, right? I mean, Arsenal might be due to win a Premiership title by playing quite similar tactics, but at least they've got, operators in the park that can knock the ball around, Odegaard, Saka, people like that. And it's not that Hearts don't have good players, but obviously they've been sent out with that system, and it didn't necessarily unsettle Celtic. It just. We were trying to get the ball down and play, and they were just hoofing it to us every single moment. There was not a single real moment they played from the back to try and create something. It was just launch it on top of Trusty and Scales, hope that something will break, and if it does break, then hoover up the crumbs. That was their game plan for the entirety of the game, and they got exactly what they deserved, which is lost the game to a team that tried to play football. I don't have any sympathy for Hearts in that regard. If they came out and they played a really good game and they attacked us and they were dangerous, but it really was just a case of they scored a goal, we equalised, we ran over the top of them in the second half, and that just brings me on to mentioning young Callum Osmond. So this player, I was excited when he first signed. He was instrumental in putting Rangers out the semi-final stage of the League Cup that we ended up losing this season, earlier in the season. But what an impact he had when he came on. What an impact. He was the player that he had chances. He set up Daizen Maeda's goal to make it 2-1. That was initially called offside, but obviously it was proven in the replay that Osmond was onside before he crossed the ball. And then he's there at the end in probably the easiest goal he'll ever score in his life, to lap up the adulation of the Celtic crowd down that end, when he just walks the ball into the net because the keepers decided to come up for their latest hoof ball into the box. unbelievable for Callum Osmond. I'm so pleased for him. And I genuinely think, even at this early stage, you could even make the argument that he should be Celtic's, starting number 9 at the start of next season. And we wouldn't need to go out and spend millions on a striker when you've got a player like that who is young, hungry, and, has been instrumental in many games for Celtic already in his short career. You might have just what you're looking for on your doorstep, and I think he's contracted. So, yeah, the next thing to talk about, is the aftermath, right? Okay, what was initially reported, and also we've just today we've had an SFA statement as an update, and also online and things like that. So, obviously, in the aftermath of the game, Callum Osmond scores the goal. There is delirium in the stadium. Everyone goes absolutely crazy because you've just beaten this Hearts team that have been top of the league all season. In the last 3 minutes of regulation time and injury time, that's the only time you've been top of the league, and you've now won the league. And then there's a pitch invasion. Now, of course, the players are going to come on the pitch, or the fans are going to come on the pitch in a situation like that. They are. There's nothing that you can really do about that. They're going to come on the pitch. The issue that you've got is that you don't want them to come on the pitch in a game of this magnitude, and they need to be stopped from coming on the pitch. But they're not. There's nothing in place to stop them. There's no netting, there's no gating, there's no security standing in front. It's nothing like that. They were just free to just run on the pitch. Now, obviously, in that aftermath, some accusations. Right, so anyway, let's start again. Let's get straight into this aftermath situation. So, obviously, 98 minutes, Osmond's just scored. There's 98 minutes. That's the 8th minute of the 98 minutes. So there's seconds left, if any, the fans decide to encroach and come on the pitch, right? Now, as they do, it has been reported by, Hearts, that some of their players were assaulted, certainly verbally kind of abused, all that kind of stuff, right? And there's been a statement from Hearts that they've given, which I'll kind of put on the screen right now, and then we can read through that. We can spend some time looking at that. I mean, obviously, I've read the statement. There's a lot to be said. Remember, this is a modern-day stadium. There's cameras everywhere. It's live on Sky Sports Football. So, I'm sure that when it goes to the police and they check this, they'll be able to find out exactly who was involved, if they're, of course, not covering their face, and hand out the appropriate sanction for it. My issue is not necessarily even with the aftermath or, what the SFA have now come out and clarified in terms of the final whistle. It was quite difficult to understand that the game had been concluded right at the end. It was not clear as day. It apparently, as the SFA, as I show you here, have said that the final whistle was blown, and Martin O'Neill and McInnes did shake hands. There is a situation where that happened, and then therefore it was understood the game's over. But some of the players maybe were confused. Certainly some of the fans were confused. There was booing from the Celtic fans for the people that were on the park because they wanted them to get off because they didn't know if there was any game time left. It was just an organisational mess, essentially, yeah. So, yeah, anyway, the final whistle was blown. What's happened will be dealt with. Pitch invasions are a problem. Now, here's the thing. In terms of this problem, you can do something about it. But ultimately, the way I look at it is that I don't know how possible this is, but if Celtic versus Hearts is the last fixture in the post-split fixtures, why is it the last fixture? Why is it not the second fixture? Why can't, when it's published, why? Because they don't know the teams until a certain time that's going to be in the top 6. As soon as the supercomputer churns out they hear the fixtures, why not go, right, Celtic v Hearts at Celtic Park? That, if that's at the end of the season, could be a bit spicy. Let's move that to the first or the second or the third game, somewhere in the middle. Why, organisationally, was that game last? When there was every possibility that it could have been a title decider. That's a question that needs answered for me. If that was Celtic on the park in a situation like today, and Hearts were playing, their game, and we were playing against, I don't know, Falkirk or Motherwell at Celtic Park, and there was a pitching incursion, I don't think that the players or the fans are going to be coming on the pitch attacking Motherwell players. I'm not saying that therefore it's okay because it was Hearts to go and attack them. What I'm saying is, why were the Celtic fans placed in that position? Why? Well, we placed in the position where when our fans are jubilant and want to get on the park, even if it is for a short time to get off again, why have you got the opposition that Celtic have been up against all season in the dugout opposite you on that game on that day? And that's something that they'll probably learn from. And that is something that they're going to have to think about in the future. Maybe they didn't worry about it because for years it's been Celtic and Rangers and no one else. But now that Hearts are emerging as a force, and that has to be proven because they haven't won anything, but they are emerging as a force because they got it right down to the final day where it could have went either way. Maybe they need to start thinking about the placement of these fixtures in the same way that they think about the placement of the fixtures with Celtic and Rangers. And when they happen, and the circumstances for when they happen as well. So that's a learning curve, I guess, and that's something they're going to have to look at. It's not the picture, that I'm seeing that the fans, they came on the park and, it was a complete catastrophe. A few idiots have got involved. There is a video going of Shankland actually pushing away someone that's coming towards him, as you would. But again, he's raised his hands, he's put them on this fan and pushed them out the way quite forcefully. Is that okay? Should Shankland have been placed in that position? Again, like I said earlier, I don't think so. So yeah, I mean, that's it really. I'm not going to go on about it too much, but I just think that organisational lessons have been learned, you would hope. Easy for me to say. Right, okay. So, let's move on, shall we? When, and I've received no update, are we building the Martin O'Neill statue? Here's one I made, and I think this one is a pretty good one. Ultimately, this man is a living legend. He's now moved into the upper echelons of, just legendary status at Celtic. He's a 74-year-old manager that has just won you your 5th title in a row in a season where we were looking at the abyss, essentially. 3rd or 4th place was the best that I was really hoping for. When Wilfred Nancy was in charge. So, yeah, that leads us on nicely to the case for keeping Martin O'Neill versus getting some new manager in. Now, if we get a new manager, the rebuild that Celtic need is absolutely ginormous, right? The biggest since Ange Postecoglou came in and had at Celtic when he came in. So, do you want to go through all of that now that you've got 5 in a row, now that you've got some stability, you've got Martin O'Neill, creating a harmony between the board and the fans, because that's not an accident. That's happened because there's been a truce because they wanted to get the league over the line and they respect Martin O'Neill to allow that to happen. If you take Martin O'Neill out of the equation and you get a new manager in, it's probably what will happen, but there has to be a genuine situation where the Celtic board are backing this new manager. In the transfer window with their hordes of cash, they need to be backing this manager. They need to make sure that this manager is well looked after and he's got plenty of money to spend, and Celtic need to take the lesson that Hearts has challenged this season and don't go into next season asleep at the wheel like we have been asleep at the wheel this season. A bit of aqua. So yeah, right, so that's that. It leads me to, are we happy with the Celtic board now? No, they need to go out and spend some money and get serious. If Martin O'Neill was going to stay, though, for another year, and that's where this thing is, you're kicking the can down the road for another year. As much as I feel emotional about it, and I think winning the Scottish Cup next week against Dunfermline to win a double is going to create that emotion. A double winning manager from any job should think twice about walking away from it. It'll be fascinating to see how this all plays out, whether Martin O'Neill, if he does leave, if he doesn't leave, if he moves upstairs, moves into a director of football role under a kind of up-and-coming new manager, so he's still there, moves into the boardroom. There's many things that could happen with Martin O'Neill. It'll be interesting, as I say, what happens over the next couple of weeks, with that. Right, so the next thing to really tackle is, the league title. that we've won. And just to mention really that the league table doesn't lie. We were behind. We were behind for a very, very long time. Hearts were 8 months top of the league. Celtic were top of the league for 3 minutes this season, plus injury time. Just let that sink in for a minute. 8 months we were chasing, and only in the last 3 minutes of the last game of the season, we were ahead going into injury time with a goal, 2-1 only up. Not even a strong lead. That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. And it's all about the resilience that's been shown by Celtic and the resilience that's been shown by Celtic's captain, Callum McGregor. So, Callum McGregor's, stewardship of Celtic, he has won so much. He has been an incredible leader for Celtic, an incredible captain. And yeah, I would say that, he is also faced with a decision this summer as well. Can he stay and rebuild? In his comments when he came out and talked about it, he said, yeah, I'd love to stay, but it will be dependent on the board and what their ambitions are moving forward. Essentially what Brendan Rodgers said before he was filleted in the media after he was, resigned by Dermot Desmond. So if McGregor stays, that would be an indication that the Celtic board are going to be serious, because he'll be privy to some of that information. He'll want to know it before committing. Brendan Rodgers in Saudi Arabia, you might fancy joining him, looking after his family. You don't know what's going to happen. I mean, essentially, we don't know. We do not know. But you've got to say, Callum McGregor might be losing a little bit of speed, might be losing a little bit of power sometimes in driving runs, but he's a captain that has taken Celtic to a position where we're utterly dominant now. Absolutely, utterly dominant under his, he's the manager on the pitch, essentially. And this season, it's been tough. He's had to deal with a lot of difficulty in terms of the playing squad, in terms of the boardroom, in terms of the management, merry-go-round, and he's been the central figure that has helped Celtic get over the line. So, thank you to Callum McGregor, and thank you so much, basically. Now, the last thing is, just a couple of things really, actually. So that's the 14th title now for James Forrest, and that's an incredible achievement. He's won 14 titles, 14 medallions with Celtic, and came on in that second half and played well after all that time to secure the win for Celtic. And the last thing to say is, Derek McInnes. I should point out that Derek McInnes is Manager of the Year, right, apparently. Let's do a trophy count for Derek McInnes. Trophies played for 3. Trophies won 0. Let's have a trophy count for Martin O'Neill. Trophy count 3. 1-1. 1 is potentially incoming in a double against Dunfermline next week. So 2 of 3. Ain't bad, is it, in terms of management? Can we have a revote? Because I think I'm pretty much clear now in my mind who'd win the next Manager of the Year vote. Signing out, and catch you on the next one. Like, comment and subscribe, and hail, hail, and come on you boys in green, and here's to 6 in a row.